Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Huddle Chat Sports Show, AZ Sports. I'm your host, Dallas, aka Indo is my Nindo. And today we've got some real hot topics. And if you don't know about AZ Sports, I started this podcast because as a Colts fan, I feel like the Indianapolis Colts don't get talked about nearly as much as I think that they should in the national headlines. Whether it be national TV spotlights when it comes to game time, or even just in your weekday episodes of First Take or your favorite sports talk show. They aren't talking about the Colts. And I know I'm not the only fan that feels that way about my team. And if you're anything like me and you're tired of hearing about the same teams over and over and over and over, and you have to scour the depths of YouTube for any information pertaining to your team, then the Huddle Chat Sports is right for you. Because here at the Huddle Chat, we like to plow new ground. We focus on teams, news stories, players that don't get as much attention as they should. This is a debate show, so if you ever have any ideas or you want me to talk about your team, drop it down low in the comments. Let me know what you want to do, what you want me to talk about, and I will get on it right away for you. Because like I said, we want to give you the information that people aren't talking about. We want to give you the information that everybody else wants. So, of course, if you're new to the channel, drop a subscription, hit that notifications bell, pay attention for the weekly episodes dropping at AZ Sports because they will be coming more consistently. And like I said, weekly episodes coming for you from AZ Sports. And as always, please make sure to hit that like button. The like button helps me out so much, even more than a subscription, or if you were to share this out to a bunch of your friends. So please, if you like my content, make sure to hit that like button. But you may have caught the cannabis portion of AZ Sports. Of course, it's written in the name, AZ Sports. We don't focus on marijuana around here, but it is hard to deny the fact that marijuana has become a part of day-to-day life. It's becoming a part of sports. It's always been a part of sports. You're seeing athletes, past and even present athletes, coming out speaking on how marijuana has impacted their lives and their careers positively. So like I said, we don't focus on marijuana, but this is a cannabis-powered, yet sports-driven talk show. For always around here, if you consume, smoke them if you got them, roll them up, light them up, dab them up, however you do it. But let's get it started. Let's get lit, baby.
Like as soon as you click on the video, it's and then marijuana title cards with smoke coming up. It's like
I just wanna know how you feel. Tell me, am I doing it right? I may be covered in cat hair, but I still smell good. Baby, let me know. How do I look in my do-rag? Don't lie to me. Let me run.
Thank you, Eric, as always, for an amazing intro. Now, getting right into everything, I want to start out by talking about a very quietly impressive team this season that's really shocking me and shocking the world. And everybody's starting to ask, should we really be paying attention to this team? Are they pretenders or are they actually contenders? And I'm talking about that Carolina Panthers team. I mean, just even when you think about the Carolina Panthers, what's the first thing that comes to mind? The new quarterback of the New England Patriots, Cam Newton, no longer a Carolina Panther. That was the main thing you thought about when it came to the Carolina Panthers. Now when you think about the Carolina Panthers, you think Christian McCaffrey, a great MVP candidate in 2019, the best running back as long as you play fantasy football. I mean, there's always an argument's sake, but the best all-around running back in football coming into this year. Currently, the Carolina Panthers are sitting at 3-3, but over their last 4 games, they're 3-1. And why do I pinpoint the last 4 games specifically? It's because they've been missing that man. They've been missing Run CMC, Christian McCaffrey himself. He has not been on the field due to injury. It's been a serious injury. He was hoping to come back this week in week 7, but it's not looking likely. So they're hoping for that comeback in week 8. But over those 4 games without Christian McCaffrey, they're sitting at 3-1. And in one game that they lost this last week, they were within 1 possession when they lost that game. So they didn't get blown out in that game in any perspective. So when you consider a team that lost its quarterback going into the season, twice as a matter of fact, because you look at Kyle Allen, now the starting quarterback of the Washington football team, He was the he was the replacement for Cam Newton last season when Cam Newton sat out a lot for injury and other reasons. But now that Cam Newton's gone, they also shipped out Kyle Allen, and they got Teddy Bridgewater in his place. So they lost it. They lost their quarterback, and they also lost their star player. Yet they're sitting at 3-1. A big part of that is going to be that Cam Newton replacement, Teddy Bridgewater. He's playing kind of balls to the wall right now, and he's earning that spot, and he's showing everybody why post-injury Teddy Bridgewater is where the Panthers really wanted to go, and they felt comfortable losing Cam and Kyle Allen and signing that Teddy Bridgewater because they felt comfortable in his skills. I mean, currently sitting right now at the time of recording, Teddy Bridgewater has the 7th most passing yards in the NFL amongst qualified quarterbacks. He's sitting at 5th total in completions, and he has the 4th best completion percentage in the league amongst qualified quarterbacks with a minimum of 100 passes. He's completing 71% of his passes at the current moment, and he's playing competently. He's leading that Carolina Panthers team. I mean, you look at Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, they've been playing absolutely lights out. Curtis Samuel has been doing decently as well, but looking at Robbie Anderson, he's come in and shocked everybody. Robbie Anderson and Teddy Bridgewater have that previous connection with the coach Matt Rule from college back in Baylor. So they already have that previous connection. Right now, with as well as Teddy Bridgewater's playing, Robbie Anderson is sitting at 2nd most in yards amongst wide receivers at the current moment, receiving yards amongst wide receivers at the current moment, sitting only behind DeAndre Hopkins, who's also been balling this year. Shouts out to my Arizona Cardinals special. If you haven't seen that one, I'm going to drop a link in the description. We discussed D-Hop at that current time. But right now we're talking about that Panthers and Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson's been balling. He's been surprising a lot of people. If you picked up Robbie Anderson in fantasy, you definitely were not expecting this level of production that you're getting at the current moment from Robbie. But then you also look at DJ Moore. He's tied for 10th amongst wide receivers in yards at the current moment in receiving yards. So he's also playing very well. Like I said, you have Curtis Samuel, who was the number 2 wide receiver for them last year, stepping in now in that slot wide receiver, that number 3 wide receiver role. So they have a very competent wide receiver core and a very competent quarterback. Mike Davis has stepped in the replacement of Christian McCaffrey and played a damn good role. He's definitely let them feel that sting of Christian McCaffrey's injury a lot less because he has been playing very well. This offense is rolling on all cylinders, but the most impressive portion of this Carolina Panthers, going back to the draft, they had 7 picks in the draft, and all 7 picks went to the defensive side of the ball. At this current moment, they've been starting 5 rookies on the defensive side of the ball. And of course, in that first game, you could definitely see it. They let the Raiders come in and put up 30 points. That's another game that they lost by 1 possession. So another game that they were in. So in 2 of their 3 losses, they've been in that game. They've been right there. They haven't been blown out. But that rookie defense, like I said, they're starting 5 players. They're starting 5 rookies on the defensive side of the ball. And that defense, of course, with no preseason games, that defense had a little bit of an adjustment period, but that defense has been playing lights out, especially in these last 4 games. So if the defense can continue clicking the way that they are, the offense can continue moving the ball and rolling on all 4 tires. And then they get Christian McCaffrey back as well. This team actually has some potential to be a surprising team to everybody this season. They're sitting only 1 game behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the lead in their division at the current moment. But the big issue for the Carolina Panthers is going to come with their upcoming schedule. 4 of their next 4 games, 3 of them are divisional opponents. And you know they've got a pretty tough division. But then that 4th team is that 4th team that's not their divisional opponent is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. So in their next 4 games, they have some really big tests that are going to show us whether this Carolina Panthers team is a pretender or a contender. But at the current moment, I'm not saying that I'm going to jump on the bandwagon for the Panthers, but they have some potential this year, and that's a team that you definitely need to be paying attention to. Now, switching directions really fast, I want to talk about one of those undefeated teams that are in the NFL at the current moment. And it seems like not as many people are talking about this team as they should. I'm talking about that Seattle Seahawks team. I mean, I mean, they've been clicking on all cylinders. I mean, everybody's talking about Russell Wilson, but what about the Seattle Seahawks? Should the Seattle Seahawks actually be like the favorites to win the NFC and represent the NFC in the Super Bowl this year? I think so. And I think not only that, I think the Seattle Seahawks might, knock on wood, might have a potential to run a perfect season this year. I mean, don't set me on fire yet. Wait till you hear what I got to say. I mean, the first thing you want to look at, of course, is their schedule. Who they got coming up? Who do they got to go through to get a perfect season, to be the team to beat in the NFC? Of their next 10 games, because we just finished week 6 going into week 7. Of their next 10 games, only one of them is a playoff potential opponent, and that's the Buffalo Bills. Besides that, they play the rest of their division, who they seem to have their number. Like I said, the San Francisco 49ers have not been themselves this year. The Cardinals have been surprising a lot of people. Again, shouts out to my Cardinals special, link in the description. But they've kind of had the number of all of their divisional opponents, especially when it comes to playing in Seattle. So they have the rest of their divisional opponents. They have the Buffalo Bills. And besides that, they play the entire NFC East, the worst division in football, 4 of the worst teams in the NFL at the current moment. The New York Giants, the Washington football team, the Dallas Cowboys, and the Philadelphia Eagles. So you put that up together and say they have one decent game on their schedule coming up. They have more than enough opportunity to pop off with that perfect season coming off of a bye week right now. I mean, you look at Russell Wilson, who is 9 out of 10 people are saying that Russell Wilson is the MVP of the 2020 season at the current moment. And the 10th person is just throwing out another name for argument's sake and wouldn't be mad at you for saying Russell Wilson is the current MVP of the season. I mean, he's completing 72% of his passes. He leads the league in touchdowns. His passer rating of 129 leads the NFL. Russell Wilson has been absolutely stellar. He's also put up 150 plus rushing yards already this season. So he's a triple threat quarterback. He can beat you with his arm, can beat you with his legs, can beat you with his mind. And then you look at Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, who have been playing balls to the wall. People are talking about DK Metcalf being the best wide receiver in football right now. And of course, we're not going to get into that argument. That's another argument for another day. But DK Metcalf right now is a top 10 wide receiver in yards. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are both top 10 wide receivers amongst receiving touchdowns. Actually, DK Metcalf is a top 3 wide receivers a top 3 wide receiver in receiving touchdowns at the current moment. And they've also been getting it done via the run game as well. Chris Carson has been playing lights out. And luckily for the Seattle Seahawks, they've been virtually injury-free. Again, knock on wood. I'm not trying to jinx anybody. But then when you look at their defensive side of the ball as well, their defense has been a force, led by Bobby Wagner, one of the best linebackers in the NFL. He's up there with Eric Kendricks and Darius Leonard. He's one of the top 3 players at his position in the NFL right now. And he leads that defense, and that defense is playing stout. And they've been doing so without Jamal Adams over the last few games. He's been having a groin injury, hasn't been himself, has been coming back off that injury. And when you got to imagine what this team is going to look like with one of the best linebackers in the game and arguably the best safety in the game leading that defense. So it's going to be hard to score on them. It's going to be hard to stop them on offense. They have an easy schedule coming up. I mean, they have everything. The Y equals MX plus B equation says that the Seattle Seahawks have everything that you need, a perfect recipe to be the overall favorites in the NFC and have a huge potential for a perfect season. I think they go at worst 14-2. I'm projecting 15-1, but I think at worst 14-2. This team is going to be on a tear. They should, without a doubt, get that first round bye. And they should just absolutely run through everybody on the way to the playoffs. Nothing is going to stop this Seattle Seahawks team except for injury. Now, really switching gears today, I want to flip-flop things one more time to the NBA before we take a quick small hiatus, wondering when the NBA season is going to start again. A lot of people are saying that the LA Lakers, of course, just won their 17th title in franchise history. Congratulations, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, all that. LeBron James wins Finals MVP, which I think Anthony Davis should have won, but that's going to be a discussion for sure on next week's episode. But a lot of people are saying that LeBron James and the Lakers should actually receive some sort of extra credit this year for winning this championship because it was so much miraculously harder than a regular NBA championship. And I'm absolutely tired of hearing that. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from LA. Congratulations, LA. They won that title fair and square. Like I said, Anthony Davis should have won Finals MVP, but we're going to definitely argue that next week. You're going to hear my side of that story. But if anything, the COVID-19 outbreak, the shutdown of the NBA, helped the Los Angeles Lakers win a title. It didn't make it harder on them. I mean, let's face it. The Los Angeles Lakers are elderly. They're old men in a basketball sense. So the NBA shutting down for 4 months gives a 35-year-old LeBron James, a 34-year-old Rajon Rondo, a 34-year-old Dwight Howard, a 31-year-old Markieff Morris 4 months to rest and be 100% ready for that NBA bubble. It gives an injury prone, and I don't like to use that term very often, but we can't deny that Anthony Davis seems to come from the same bloodline as Derrick Rose. He's injury prone. And the 4 month shutdown gives him a higher chance of making it all the way through the finals, making it to the finals, and making it all the way through the finals. Because I don't know if you're watching the same series as I was, that he barely made it through the finals. He barely made it through the playoffs. I saw Anthony Davis take about 3 injuries in the 18-19 games that they played in this bubble. In this bubble. So it definitely gave a fragile and elderly Lakers team the best chance to be 100% ready. Now you also look at it, bro, they weren't traveling. Traveling was a non-factor. A typical finals series, this finals alone, the Los Angeles Lakers would have had to enter the Eastern Conference time zone twice. I mean, you take out a 5-hour flight to Miami and the charter flight and all that, and replace it with a 5-minute bus ride to your grand suite in the hotel. Of course they come off the bus looking fresh as a daisy for every game. We're not having to face any opposing crowds, and especially in a Miami Heat, Los Angeles Lakers setting. You know those crowds are going to be very live, especially considering the fact that both teams had LeBron James on their roster at one point. So that's going to be a very lively crowd. That takes out some of the advantages the Miami Heat could have had in a regular series. I mean, the fact of the matter is, this was basketball summer camp. This wasn't harder. I mean, yes, of course, the NBA players missed their families, and there was the mental issues and all that shit. But in a basketball sense, when you put everything in a vacuum or in a bubble, in this sense, this was basketball summer camp. They had rental bikes at will whenever they needed them. If they didn't play well, they could go straight upstairs and shoot more shots in the practice gym. Like, bro, this was basketball summer camp. They had no outside worry. They didn't have to worry about the traveling, the flights. It was literally just they could shut out the world and play basketball. I'm sure if you could create that situation again, a lot of players might take that opportunity again because it was a great opportunity. I'm sure in a few years we'll have all kind of documentaries talking about the NBA bubble and talking about the different things that went on in the NBA bubble behind the scenes that we didn't know about. But like I said, I'm not taking anything away from the Los Angeles Lakers. Congratulations, they won their title. I'm not going to put an asterisk on there because it was an easier championship. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like they did something extra special or extra sweet, or they defeated some sort of extra big monster. It was a normal finals championship. If anything, it was easier. So there definitely should not be any extra credit or any asterisks next to the finals championship. They won it fair and square. Let's move on to next year. Congratulations, Lakers, but let's stop with all that extra credit nonsense. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, I would again like to thank you so much for tuning in to the Huddle Chat Sports Show today, because that is going to do it for us this week on the Huddle Chat Sports Show. And like I said, Make sure you hit that notifications bell. We're going to be coming out with weekly episodes now, baby. We got consistency. We got a whole setup going on now. It's only getting bigger and better from here. And shouts out to y'all that have been here from the beginning, from the building blocks. So thank you so much. I do this for y'all. Of course, stay high, stay blazing. But most importantly, stay safe out there. I'm your host, Dallas, aka Indo. Smash that like button for me. I'm out of here, baby. Peace out.
Would you tell me the truth? Do you like my dude?